Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Andrew and I are excited to be here with you today to really talk about a topic that we notice has been coming up a lot in some interviews that Andrew and I have been doing together. And what this topic or the question that keeps coming up as is around people being really clear on why they even have a website in the first place. You'd be surprised how many times when we even meet with clients, when we say, "Why do you want a website?" The answer is kind of, well, I mean, what do you get? I mean, you're the one that asks a lot of people more the questions of like why they have a website, right? So what do you hear?
That it's just an expectation that everyone has one, that you feel you should have it. Uh, that's one bucket of people. And so the other, and then there's like the other bucket. Some people do know exactly why they want why they want it or why they wanted to redesign their current one. To have, and that's why we wanted to start talk about it and dive in a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think even those that kind of know why they want their website, it's still not really clear. Like especially as a coach, I noticed that the answer is a lot more surface level, and it's important to go so much deeper, right? The 7 layer deep of what is really the why behind their website, like what's the true purpose? Because ultimately, when you're designing your website, when you're really clear on what the outcome is, right? The ROI, right? The rate of return on your investment of building a website, you want to be really clear on the action step you want the client to take, the visitor to take. And that's what we often notice. Like we did a web audit a few weeks ago, and we noticed there was a mismatch in terms of what the buttons were saying and the action that the business owner actually wanted the visitor to take. And so that's why, you got to reverse engineer it. You know exactly that exact step you want the person to take, it's so much easier to reverse engineer that. And that's the power of having a website. And we see it so many times when clients come to us, it's my website's not working, right? I mean, how often do you ever hear that, right? Like my website's not working. Well, part of it not working is not being clear again on how you want it to work, right? And I know there's a bunch of tools in place, right, to be able to measure that, like to evaluate if something's working, not working. But the only way you can evaluate that is you got to be clear on how you're actually defining that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really need to have that like sort of baseline of like, hey, like what's that goal? What are you trying to achieve? Because without that, you're just like, I think I'm doing well. It seems it's pretty, or it seems to work well for me. But yeah, like so, step one is to like identify, okay, what's the point of this website, or what are the main goals of it, like that I want to focus on, because a website can have multiple functions. So it's really important to really identify, get clear on what are the main goals that you want to start focus on, and then kind of like reverse engineer like that path of like how do I accomplish that. So like where do we want to start?
Well, I think it's just important to reiterate, right? Like when you go and build a website, it's an investment. It's an investment in time. If you hire an agency like us, there's a financial investment. So you want to be clear that it's going to work, right? Before you like sort of like launch into that, right? It becomes like we see it again. I don't know how many clients have come to us that have invested in a website and the website's not working. And so that's why it's so important. That's why I love having the neuroscience and the neuro coaching and like my gift as a coach to ask those questions that, like, let's be honest, most web agencies are not asking those questions because you're coming to them saying, I want a website. And what are they going to do? They're going to build your website, but they're not going to think about the behind the scenes of, okay, what's the function of this website? What do you want it to actually do? How are we going to measure that success? And then we can make tweaks along the way because we have the data to make and inform those decisions on the tweaks that need to be made. And this is what we see all the time with clients that come to us that already have a website, or even those newer clients that are just building a website are just like feeling like, well, it's like I need to have one. But it's not just I need to have one. It's like a website, if done correctly, can really serve as a high powerful business associate, right? I'm just thinking of like a chat GPT, right? Like how many of you are using AI to support you as like, your virtual assistant in some ways. Your website can function in a very similar manner when done correctly and strategically. So yeah, so you want to talk, like maybe wrap up or start with like where do you want to start with getting clear on the purpose of your website?
Where do you want to get clear on it? Well, yeah, we had first you have to identify like, hey, is this going to be is the goal of the website simply or not simply is the goal of the website to like booking an appointments for a lot of like coaching businesses or service based coaches that could be like the main goal is like how many appointments do I want to get or each month, and so you have that as your baseline. And so to like achieve that, you can reverse engineer like, okay, well, it's pretty obvious like if I have like if I want to get 10 bookings a month, where am I at now? And you can use tools like your website just to have some like capturing that information will also identify that. And then if it's not, if you are coming short, you can figure out okay where like why isn't it working? Like reverse engineer where are the steps to get to that page? Like is it straightforward or is it convoluted and people have to go through too many hoops to get to that booking page? So you have to like really make it as easy as possible to accomplish that goal. Because sometimes it's like, and sometimes it might be easy to you, like because you're so it's intuitive to you because you built it or you use it so long, you're just like, oh yeah, this is just how it is. So sometimes it's good to just like get a third party or someone else to take a look and see what they think. Like, is this normal? Like, is it or is there ways to improve this user experience so that it's so if someone comes to your website, they if they well know how to book you, they do that easily. Or if they're newer to you, then you think of like what is the customer journey to get to that end result of booking an appointment or filling out that contact form. Like how do they get to know you? How do you build that trust for them to then invite them to want to book a call with you?
I want to, I think it's a great place to insert. Like a confused mind doesn't buy. And so in going back to the web audit we did a few weeks ago, we noticed that just confusion was being created. And we got really clear with the client of like, what, again, thinking about that customer journey, like, first of all, who is your ideal customer and how do you want them to interact with the website and what is the end goal, right? It's very, very easy to want to put so much information, but it's just going to lead to confusion. And in fact, it's going to lead to inaction because again, a confused mind doesn't buy. I'm going to reiterate that again. A confused mind doesn't buy. And it's so easy to create confusion. And it's not that you're doing purposely. It just happens because you're like, well, I want to make it the easiest possible for the person to work with us. Well, if that's the case, pick the road of least resistance, right? Think about the brain. The brain's always scanning and looking for the path of least resistance. Create the path of least resistance so that because you're better off just having the person be in action and create some sort of contact with you, then create a very complex step-by-step process that is probably going to, potentially to overwhelm the person shutting down, right? Think path of least resistance. What is it, like grade 3 English language? Keep it super simple so that the person can move with ease and flow to be able to work with you. So remember, confused mind doesn't buy. Mm-hmm. Path of least resistance when you're building out that site.
Because what was the example that when we were talking to that client? It's like, because one of the most important, the first things to see on your website is that hero section. It's the first thing people land on your site. And what we found, or that we learned, is that the client wanted people to, when they get to that hero section, the first thing they wanted them to book appointments. Well, on their website, it was basically a button for a phone number to like call them, and some people are fine with calling, and then other people are just like a little more hesitant. They rather like fill out contact forms or booking is a lot more comfortable doing that. Plus, there's the admin side of answering phone calls too. So it's like right off the bat, it's like, well, there's a disconnect there. Let's tweak this. Why don't we change that button up? It's as simple as that, and you might get a much better result.
Right? The simplicity of it is super, super important, right? So again, it reiterates being super clear on what the purpose of your website, right? Why we do what we do is fueled by why we do it. So it's really important to be super clear on why the website, what's the, like, how are you using as a tool, as another, partner in your business to support you with what's important to you. I just want to insert here too. This is what I've noticed a lot in a lot of my coaching calls in the last couple of weeks is what's the driver? We spoke yesterday about the importance of having, when I say yesterday on this interview that we did, about the importance of being clear on your business goals. But a big thing that I often notice with clients is that they're focusing on the wrong thing in terms of their goal. Like they focus so much on the revenue, but yet your revenue is not what drives them. It's the impact, right? And so this is really important. If you always consistently have a revenue goal and you're noticing there's a misalignment there and you're not hitting it. And then of course, I mean, that's a whole life for another day, right? To talk about the neuroscience behind that. But yet you're really driven by the impact you're creating. You get to have an impact goal. And so again, you have the impact goal. If you have an impact goal, the revenue is going to be created. And so this is just really, really important to understand, because it's going to be the same way of how you're showing up on your site with your copy and with the customer journey and on the experience that you're creating there, right? So having real clarity, same thing, when clients come to us and we ask them, why do you want a website? Even if they do give us the revenue goal, which is fantastic, of course, my neuro coach hat, I go a little bit deeper to really understand, is it really the revenue that's driving, or is it the impact, right? And so again, you can set your measurements and your metrics based on what is the true real driver in supporting and how you show up in the impact that you create. So anything else, as we wrap up here, that you want to add, just to reiterate the importance of really being clear on why you have a website and what you want the website to do to help you with your business?
Yeah, like it's just really important to establish that baseline, figure out what's the goal, and so you have something to work towards. And then once you identify that, then really take a critical eye with your website and figure out like how am I achieving that, and then like how easy is it for that visitor to land on your website and then go through the steps that you want them to take. And be really critical and take an audit and figure out like, and ask other people too, like what do you think, do we need to change this or modify a little bit, because yeah, you just want to make it as easy as possible for people to accomplish your goals, like, or to so that you're working with the right people and accomplishing your goals.
Yeah, and like Andrew said, like if you would like for us to take a look at it, we always run our web audits, and it's so insightful because when you're in your site and you're so connected to the information there, you don't always see it, right? Whereas for us, we are able to take a look at it, from that strategic point of view and that strategic lens, right? Myself through that client journey, Andrew through the back end, the tech side, but really looking at it again, is your site really set up to be really set up for success to help you win in the areas that you want to win in your business? And to take a look at things like that. Like again, our client would have never have known that until we came in with the web audit to take a look at that and really be able to give that feedback and help the client get clear on what the why is, because it's so easy to just go out and build a website, but it's really taking a second to take a step back and think bigger vision, bigger picture of like, okay, why do I even have a website in the first place? What do I hope to achieve? And not hope, because right, what do I declare I would like to achieve with the website? So like I said, if you are interested, curious to have us take a look at it, just reach out, ask for the audit, and we'd be happy to support you in the next steps of that. Right, we'll see you next time.